Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Abu Saleh, an assistant professor of English at the Raja Pere Mohan College and the University of Kolkata. Now we'll be discussing a module on 18th century women poets under the paper English Literature 1590 to 1798. This module has been prepared by M.S. Kirthana B, who is a research scholar at the University of Hyderabad. This module is important because not only it outlines the women writers and poets of 18th century, but it also gives a background to the women writing because that started during that time. So now let us move into the module and let's see what we are discussing in this module. This module is about 18th century women poets and it includes 18th century background, initial phase of publication, especially reviewing, entry of women poets, especially and the themes they were writing, formation of reading clubs and societies, last couple of decades of the 18th century, transition of themes in the latter 18th century due to emergence of Romanticism, and various issues related to women writing. Now let us look at the background of the 18th century literature. 18th century is a period of riots and revolts, especially French Revolution, crime, poverty, wars, homelessness and glorious revolution was there in that time. Ideological battles were fought like Jacobite rebellions, Sechrevel, Wickeites and Gordon riots. British Empire was still expanding amidst of such alarming situation and they had become landlords of eastern India, most of the peninsular regions, Ganges Valley, coastal lines of Ceylon and islands of Mauritius. British considered themselves as benevolent and continued to hunt others' lands. Men and women had started writing their issues as central theme. Style of writing changed with respect to changing context. Words were borrowed from other languages, especially French, and have a rhythm in the poetry. Such poems establishing wit, grace, accomplishment were used as tools of communication. Poems were a replica of real life. It taught the middle class to address themselves in public, how to behave, who, and enhance beauty, etc. So till now we are discussing the 18th century literature background, how the British Empire was expanding throughout the world, how they were getting words from different languages, and how it developed their own poetry and literature. Now let us look at some of the examples of the 18th century poems. The following poems display the reality of the society. Anne Marie's The Card Party, A Town Eclogue, Clara Reeves To a Coquette, Disappointed of a Party of Pleasure, Anne Finch, Clarinda Indifference at a Parting with Her Beauty. Such poetry had great respect for women's talents and gender. Such poems were published in periodicals which began regularly getting published since 1745. Another important aspects of this period, especially in terms of poetry, that poetry and reviewing system started. Reviewing poems is a common phenomenon of that time. It gave rapid advancement to women's poetry in third quarter of the 18th century. During 1685, women's poetry was considered as fashionable. Works like Thomas Shadow's The Female Rights to Literature, which was published in 1748, Dodsley's Collection and the Ladies' Poetical Magazine, which was published in 1782, were reviewed and reprinted frequently. Now we'll discuss some women poetess and their periodicals and anthologies. Middle of the 18th century, women poetess were seen in anthologies and periodicals with a sense of respect and gratitude. For example, Edward Cave's Gentleman Magazine 2 columns of poetry with 8 pages in the selected issues of 1733 and all issues from 1735. By 1745, 30 journals were regularly publishing women's writings. Now we'll discuss two important figures of this period, especially Mary Masters and Kelly Grew. Mary Masters published her first volume of poetry as Poetry of Several Occasions. She also published by a young gentleman in 1724, but the edition of 1733 had written her name in the golden letters of history. A challenge to her work to a gentleman who questioned my being the author of a foraging verses was posed by Anne Killigrew upon saying that my verses were made by another, which was published in 1686. Mary had mocked at Killigrew at her readers knew a good number of poetess than she had known. Even though both of their works are highly polished, Killigrew's heroic couplets are filled with classical allusions which are unlike Master's simple vernacular language with occasional reference to poetic diction. Now we'll discuss women writing in terms of fashion and how they were related to fashion. In the men's work, contexts were revolving around women, their nature and their behavior, whereas women's writing had become fashionable during that time. The reason of this is maximum percentage of readers were women. For example, Thomas Sado's The Female Right to Literature, which was published in 1748, and John de Combes' The Feminiad, treated women as the source of national pride. A woman literature was never looked like a magic lady like the previous era and was accepted by all, especially the writers were accepted by anonymously. Now we'll discuss two important figures, those are Catherine Phillips and Aphra Behn. Catherine Phillips and Aphra Behn had proved that poetries are equally possible for middle class women too. Poems by eminent ladies by George Colomban and Balliol Thornton praised Phillips and Behn. Phillips' 11 poems and Behn's 27 poems was titled Excellent Poet, and both of them had set up the canon for the women's poetry. Behn's themes were female friendship, celebrating privacy, and so on, whereas Phillips wrote on the public debates and finally about private relationship. The quality of Behn's writing was extraordinary, as she was praised by Daniel Defoe in The Pacifector, which was published in 1700. She had been invited by the legends like Dryden to commercial poetic venture, yet continued writing friendship and pastoral poems. On the other hand, Phillips had published two plays in 1663 and 1664 respectively, becoming the first woman to produce a play on Dublin and London stages. By the end of 17th century, Phillips was an established poet as well as equal to men, while Behn was on her way. Most of the women found Phillips to be congenial, as many of her poems were addressed to friends as role models, to her women poets as Mary Astell, Elizabeth Montagu and Queen Caroline. Now we'll look at the first half of the 18th century. So we'll look from 1700 to 1750. During this time, poets had access to libraries and had also leisure time to write. Number of women poets increased as the women from working class started to writing poems. The theme of those poems were like moral issues and so on. The situation in the world of poetry was criticized by Elizabeth Eger, and she had mentioned that the central significance of poetry is lost as a result of writing on the morality. In reply to the comment, Behn had included social and political judgment in her poetries, epilogues and prologues. Thus, Behn was the shining star of the first half of the 18th century. Now, after discussing the first half of the 18th century, we will now focus on the second half of the 18th century. Poetess like Anne Finch, who had written poems based on politics and feminine inwardness and had set a style for her poetry, could dominate the next century as a follower of Behn's style. Other poetess like Sarah Fitz Egerton, Mary Barber, Mary Jones, Clara Reeve, Mary Darwell and Anna Letitia Bold had different styles of writing, but their theme was around the same. Poetry was a platform where private life and public opinion met. Religion was imposed on poetry as that defined their idea of morality. But a few had a vision about the eternal world and wrote about earthly consequences too. A few others like Charles Smith and Anna Seward and the second half of the century thought themselves as the people of sensibility. They had expressed the horror and violence its peak and also elaborated the insensitivity that was prevailing in the society. Anna Seward and Hannah More have written about the concept of anti-slavery, looking at the innocent slavers suffering in France as they had understood the functioning of the outside world. Women started expressing the same emotion through art as well. Thus, they had started to feel, think, and respond in various ways. So, we are discussing the 18th century and basically the themes of women writing. Now, let us discuss gathering, the joy of reading. Books were always expensive. To make it feasible, newspaper societies were formed. Literate read out their literatures in public. Women initiated in inviting people for such gatherings and they had spread the joy of reading. Coffee houses and small shops were subscribing to periodicals and newspapers to withhold the patrons of their shops. Number of reading societies, circles, clubs increased as number of readers had also increased. Along with the gatherings, there are public readings were also organized during that time. Auctions of books, library subscription, and used book stalls had bloomed in the mid-century as a result of increased public reading. Literature was considered as an entertainment and poetry was marked with distinction. During 1770s, commons like artists, farmers, and their wives to enjoyed essence of literature. As a consequence, the three popular activities performed during any gathering were singing, reading aloud, and public poetry recitation. Now we'll discuss the transition from public reading to performances and how they have helped in the development of women's writing. Women shifted from private singing to public singing, especially the performance on the stage. Poems were titled as song. A few bards have bloomed with initial recognition to songs. For example, Mary Jones, The Loss of the Hill, and the few others like Susanna Blamire had written numerous songs. Carolina and Baroness Narine had written the traditional Scottish songs which retained their fame and more than 50 years. Affordable ones had called out for gathering and read out poems as reading and recitation had become a common phenomenon. The central theme was religion, especially for religious poetries. Later on, it was extended to other themes too. As the books were expensive, those were not affordable to everyone, such public readings were encouraged. As the session happened, the ladies were engaged in making ruffles, border, flowering, and patterns. Most of the poems were simple in language, short, and topical. Thus, it was evident that the culture of working and listening was budding. Now, we'll discuss an important figure of the time, Sarah Siddons. It was taken forward that actors had started reciting poems in the form of puppet shows, country dances, and card playing, and thus had become the public entertainment. In contrast, Sarah Siddon, a Welsh-born actress whom King George had named preceptors of English reading, as she has read poetries in public gatherings, in her home, and in small public halls. She has also read Milton, whose works are considered to be phenomenal. She started reciting her poems and had also brought in feminine accomplishment of writing occasional verses. Audience had observed that she had distanced herself from the audience and she was hiding her own expression and feelings. Finally, she had recited a poem at her farewell address in Covent Garden in 1812. Similar recitation had already happened. For instance, Mary Pickford had done at her retirement in 1768, and Mary Robinson had recited Shakespeare throughout her poetic career. Now let us see the end of the 18th century. Women were major producers, consumers, and performers of poetry. Books about such women like Poems by Eminent Ladies for the women like Goldsmith Poems for Young Ladies had joined the club ever-going volumes. The shift from the traditional poetry to politics also engaged public. Diverse audience who either carried about equality or followed fashion. Thus, it's evident that poetry was well established deeper in the people's ideologies of self, class, and nation. Now let us look at some of the women poets during the end of 18th century. Many women poets had become work integrated as opposed to work adapted. For example, female poetess like Sarah Fig Egerton, Mary Barber, Charlotte Smith, Anna Barbauld, and Anna Seward had led a life constantly working on poetry with hard work and dedication like a canonical men. On the other hand, female poets like Finch, Montague, Carter, and Rowe had written several poems with great progress and ambition but were not setting their lives only to poems. Now, after discussing some of the women poets, now let us see some of the important themes which were being written during that time. Religion was the major theme of the maximum poets. Bain, Jane Barker, Finch, and other women wrote eloquently about Stuarts. Stuart, Amelia Opie, Moore, and few other women had written about torrent of war and poetry. Looking at Charlotte Smith's success, they became more engaged with history and were more willing to assume an evaluative and even prophetic stance. They had wanted to write on social issues, especially the radical ones like Smith. Now, if we see a concept, then we find that there are some repeated concepts where there in the writings of women poets. Like war was one. For instance, the works of Balmair and are related to war fields of England, and her ballads of love are animated by the effects of ordinary citizens. On the other hand, wilderness was also one of the repeated concepts. For instance, the foreign countries are denoted as wilderness and as distance. Bling plains dyed in red in blood. Another important thing was like catastrophes. Annie Bannerman, in her poem Ginny, which was published in 1800, had talked about the catastrophes like earthquake to give a threatening sound. It also filled with the horror sounds, creating a dramatic imagery. Also, symbols such as ocean were written. Ocean was considered as a powerful symbol as it meant to the global reach of the empire. Now, let us see how the transition of the themes happened during that period, especially in their writing. One of the reasons of this transition is the emergence of Romanticism. Authors wrote about natural habitat in which they had lived, unlike writing about the formal gardens and landscapes. A variety of genres bloomed due to different sections of women who were working on print media. Washerwomen and duchesses had been able to print. Themes like marriage, social space that was occupied by women were a result of this. Now, after discussing themes, we will also discuss some of the issues which were written during that time. One of the prominent issues was gender issues. Women poems were undervalued than men's, obviously. Sex was determinant in attaining social position. Women poetess were not given for revisions, and thus it did not have sustained study. Women's signature poems are never found like men's. Women's writings were considered as reproduction and not invention, as they had preferred writing in the conventional style. For instance, one of the most reprinted poems of 18th century was Anne Finch's The Spleen, which was considered to be unreadable in today's feminist society. Reason for such poems being called out of favor because of complicated structure, metaphysical bent. Thus, these poems were not appreciated by the public. The second one is genre, a deciding tool of understanding the educational and the societal background of the author. In the case of women writing, genre could not be the tool to evaluate an author. And the reason of being so, their thoughts were shaped by men. They were nurtured to work within the conventions. Thus, existing tastes of men were witnessed in their writings. Then women started writing about marriage and women's position within the system, which men did not think about. Women's writing had opposed the view of women to be a victim and love object. They had treated themselves as the other with the respect of the society. To overcome such situation, women had written their poems with their own voices and with dramatic characters. For example, Mary Berbers, to a lady who commanded me to send her an account in verse, how I succeeded in my subscription, and Pope's epistle to Arbuthnot. This was considered to be a liberating and enjoyable technique for women. The third one is agency and the markers. These are two interrelated concepts which are criticized by the modern thinkers. Author's sex is noted when one reads a poem. The remaining interpretation is based on the sex of the poet. Fitting into the 18th century, they had read poems not only for nobility but also to know other sex behavior. Agency, the ability will not to act purposefully, independently or self-consciously, was denied for women poets. As Gayatri Spivak explains, the subject must identify itself with its own perceived intention, which was very much absent in the case of women writers during 18th century. Many other modern critics like Joanna Rush in How to Suppress Women's Writing and Killigrew upon the Sing My Verses were made by another, and Charlotte Lennox, the female Quixote, had talked about women agencies in detail. The hunger was witnessed in women poetry to create a beautiful poetry in terms of symmetry, aesthetics and other technical aspects like rhythm and music. Exceptions were Mary Robinson was self-defined and also had willingness to express her moods and emotion with confidence. In her poem Ode to Muse, which was published on 1791, she was open and had clearly discussed the purpose of her poetry in 16 lines. Let us discuss what is the reasons of looking them back. What are the reasons we look back the women poets of 18th century? The main reason for looking them back is to reclaim them and make them available in the contemporary editions or online, which would retell the history and culture of this era to the present and future generations. Secondly, to position and evaluate them within the literary tradition, so looking back through reading their literature would make the readers more sensitive toward the societal and cultural background of the time. To conclude this module, we can say that women writers of the 18th century witnessed the beginning of Romanticism, which had driven the poetess towards writing individualistic sentiments and feelings. By writing such poems, they had already crossed the boundaries of men's thoughts. This was when the radical writing started coming. Example, Mary Wollstonecraft, A Vindication of the Rights of Women. Women writings were less in number when compared to the number of women who were practicing. Factors like disapproval of feminine forwardness had kept them out of the printing world. The act of previewing was absent in the female writers, and thus they could not maintain a steady growth. They did not have signature poems like men. Thus, they had felt the need to fight back as they were scaled lower to men to come up with poetry of various genres, which made women poetry flourish in 1790s. Notable literary ladies in the latter period include Anna Barbauld, Joanna Bailey, Susanne Velmer, Cecilia Harms, Mary Leper, Lady Mary Wortley Montagu, Hannah More, and Mary Robinson. Thus, literature is a record of events that make a call to humanity, and it has always supplied mankind with beauty, intelligence, stimulation, pleasure, and inspiration. It makes us cry, laugh, express, and especially care for victims may it be of any category. 18th century women poets too have recorded their lifestyle in a series of events in the form of literature. The world of good literature is never complete without Annie Finch, Nocturnal Reverie, Elizabeth Rose, Canticles, Lady Mary's Epistle from Mr. Wong, Charlotte Smith, written on a pen chart in autumn, and Disaster by Mary Savage, who are the literary ladies of the 18th century. So in this module we have discussed 18th century women poets. Especially we started with the background of 18th century, and this is the point when women started writing poems or any other literary genres. So this is the interesting module, and hope you have liked this module. And if you want to know more about the 18th century women poets, you can have a look at the e-text. Also, you can have a look at the further reading section where we have listed several books and articles on 18th century women poets. Also, you can participate in our self-assessment segment. Thank you so much.